If my people that are called by my name would humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, I would hear from heaven. I'll forgive the sin. I'll heal the land. Mike from around the world is with us. Mike, how you doing tonight?
Pastor Paul, God bless you. I'm doing okay tonight.
Oh, good. Praise God. Well, um, wow, Mike, we're 12 days away from maybe one of the most important elections in history, and maybe this is even more important than we can even fathom.
The most important. I would say this is the most important event that we have. And right now is the single most important event.
So, Mike, there's a lot I want to ask you about. We've been talking about here before you come on. Let's start with the BRIC nations for just a second. They got together. I mean, you got Russia, China, you got India, Iran, um, South Africa, Brazil, but there was 30 nations actually, and you had some really powerful individuals there. A lot of people represented on the planet, and some huge economies, and two out of the three superpowers. And their conversation tonight or today, Mike, was Israel and the Holy Land is on the brink of conflagration. Basically, Putin was saying the Middle East is about to go up in flames, and Israel better not attack Iran's nuclear facilities. What is your take on the BRICS and Putin's warning?
Well, it's a commonly shared view with those countries. They do not want Israel in power, right? They don't want Israel in power because they continue, unless they fold to some of the ideologies of a two-state solution. Otherwise, they don't want them in power. Now, the Middle East is it's a very wealthy place, right? So, but Israel is a disruption. They see Israel as a disruption to prosperity, right, for all those countries. And I can tell you right now, they're getting together to take them out of power. They see the U.S. elections forming. They're watching opinions closely. They're doing everything they can do to sway people's opinions, and they're doing everything. But they have to get in position, because if Trump gets into power, they know there's some things they have to do prior to him getting in power. Trump is not going to play with Iran. He's not going to do that. And he's not going to be as lenient with Iran as Democrats have been. They already know this. So they have to do something prior to that point. They have to come to some agreements, get some agreements on paper prior to that point, and they're ready to do it. They already have their financial system is already set up and ready to go without the American petrodollar.
I see.
They have changed and altered so much, as though they're getting ready for the USA to pass the governance mantle to another country. So something else is in the works. Something huge is in the works, and they know it, and they're going to make a move. They're going to make a move. They're not getting together just to whistle Dixie. They're going to make a move, and the USA is, we're going to have to face a very different situation. And that's regardless of who's in power, because they're going ahead with this movement. In back channels, in their governments, they've already passed certain laws. They have manuals written. These guys have a brand new outlook on the future that Americans just don't hear about. And they have written out the USA.
So in other words, you're saying that they've created, in their mind, they're creating a new world order that doesn't include the United States.
Yeah, the USA is not included. And that's not good. Who does that? When you have a country like the USA, who clearly carries the mantle of leadership in the world, who makes another world, right? And gets rid of that leader and says, "Well, guys, we're going to run it ourselves." So it really shows you some of the internal confidence that they have in their own plans. Now that's very dangerous, because when somebody has confidence in their own plans, you know what the next step is. If it's opposed, they will go to war. They will go to war.
Okay, and I guess will they go to war? That would include with us, the United States, and our allies.
Yep.
And so the world is choosing up sides, is what I'm hearing you say. There's two ideologies. One is the West, and one is more authoritarian, a more totalitarian mentality, because you got the Chinese, you got the Russians, and you got the Islamic jihadis, the radical Shiites. All of them are really just control the people with power and strength and brutality if needed. And then you have the West that supposedly is supposed to be free and of the people, but obviously corruption is everywhere. So in your opinion, when we're hearing today, it wasn't only Putin saying two-state solution, it was China as well, and India said it as well. This is gigantic, that they are talking that there has to be a two-state solution. So we're going now that the whole world is coming against Israel, and they're going to try to force the parting of the land. Where do you see this going?
Well, they're gonna change the leadership in Israel. I hate to say that, but that's a fact. They're gonna change the leadership, which means there are gonna be some unfortunate events that take place. Some unfortunate historical events. Israel's hand is going to be forced. They will install. I cannot help but to continue to worry about a new individual coming into Jerusalem, which is going to bedazzle everybody there. But
is he from Israel, or is he coming in from a different?
No, he's from Israel. Keep in mind, inside of Israel, there are during that webinar, betrayal was one of my main things.
Yes, it was. Yes,
right?
It was.
So you'll see a lot of betrayal on every single level. Going forward. I mean, bad betrayals that will really start to uncover some things. And within Israel, you have groups of people who they absolutely hate Israel, but they are of Israel, right? It's kind of like in the Bible when the Bible says, I know you're around those people who say they are Jews but are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Those would be the individuals who do not have the Lord's word in them. They have another word in them. And these people are rotten to the core, right? They were there, and during the Gulf War, the USA had problems with them. When Saddam Hussein was going to attack Tel Aviv, these guys were feeding information to Saddam Hussein in regards to coordinates. I suspect these same groups have been feeding Hezbollah and Hamas information about different the placement and the groundwork of Israel, especially when Hezbollah and Hamas have done had precision rocket launches that if they would have hit their target, they would have hit right in the bullseye. Right, Benjamin Netanyahu is always targeted.
Yeah.
Other cabinet officials are targeted, but the missiles, the intercept tracks that Iron Dome takes down, if it hadn't been there, it would have taken them. Even the USA, with their intercept capabilities, right? If they hadn't intercepted certain missiles from Iran, because during that missile barrage, they had another launch. It was two groups of missiles. And obviously they had some high-level precision missiles in there, right, that were headed to very specific targets, but they were intercepted by the USA, not by Iron Dome, but the USA. Had they stayed on that track, goodbye, all those most important people in Israel
So
who govern it right now.
you're saying that really it was the United States that knocked down those Iranian intercontinental ballistic missiles. It really wasn't the Iron Dome of Israel.
There were some very specific missiles the USA intercepted. Yes, yeah, we're over there now. We have that same mission is ongoing with Israel. The USA has been helping out, and so there were some that would have hurt because Iron Dome, it can intercept missiles, yes, but you're looking at when you have high-tech missiles which can alter altitude and take a whole different track. Iron Dome can't track something like that. It will lose a missile at a specific altitude. But with us, we can cover that. So you have certain missiles that Iran has, and Russia made them. But I believe they had a almost like a street name of a jump missile. In other words, it will launch at one altitude and have a specific track. But then obviously it has some sort of propulsion that makes it go up a few 100 to up to 1,000 feet in seconds, right? And then it goes on a different track. All this to fool any type of Patriot system, Hawk systems, all these different systems. THAAD, it tries to fool those systems to get into its target. But they launched some of those, which was a big surprise to the USA, which is why they immediately deployed some high-tech devices over to the Middle East right after that missile barrage, right? Because that was a surprise. That was a shocker. Anyway, they're trying to take out Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And is the way Israel's security is, they're just humans. They're going to make a mistake.
Yeah.
And you're looking at attacks that are happening against Benjamin Netanyahu every single day, from within and from without.
Yep.
Right? So, it's one of those inevitable things.
So it's pretty obvious that Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump are the two most wanted men in the world by the enemy, I would think. And now I'm going to ask another question. I want to tell you about these fault line and Atlantic currents in just a second. Just one last question on this, and that is this intel leak. How in the world? I mean, it isn't like you give a lot of people the intel. I mean, Israel's saying, here's our game plan to go after Iran. It didn't tell everybody. It wasn't something that's floating around the Pentagon. There was just a handful of people who gets this plan. How in the world does it leak to the Telegraph and to CNN? Mike,
well,
what's going on?
When Israel shares their plans, right, they do it through a different avenue. So your average intel person is not going to get that. They're not going to know.
Right.
So that's troubling. That means somebody on the inside of Israel, very close to Benjamin Netanyahu, is a betrayer, and they're still there, right?
Wow.
Because they haven't found the guy yet. So they're still there. I would suspect this is why Benjamin Netanyahu has not shared too many plans with anybody else, because he really is not, he doesn't know who he can trust around him. What a situation that is. Well, I know that situation well, but that's an act of betrayal. And of course, when it goes through these unchecked channels, everybody gets hold of it, right? Because it travels the internet, and things travel fast. But Israel has a bad problem with leaks. If that can be leaked, well, so can times and dates and targets. And I hope the leak doesn't penetrate into the Mossad territory, because if that's so, that's an instant defeat of Israel.
Yeah, it would be.
If the Mossad is ever infiltrated, Israel is going to be doomed within hours, if that ever happens. And so everybody should expect the USA to stay on station for that reason and some more, to secure Israel. But Pastor, they're preparing something that's just unprecedented. These enemy nations are planning something, and they're extremely sneaky, right? And it's very difficult for even U.S.-based intel to really discover all of what they're actually doing. There are too many components. You're looking at terrorist organizations that the public has never heard of, that are
Wow.
extremely efficient in what they do. These names like Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis, and all that, these are names, newspaper names. These are public names. These are names that people identify certain activities with. But these other groups they're highly trained. Many of them have been trained by the U.S. Army. Many of them have been in, part of the airborne, part of 7-7s, other operations, 10th Mountain Division, so on and so forth. The Marine, you just name it, they've been there, and they go back to the Middle East. Everybody seems to have forgotten back in 2011, 9, 10, and 11, the training of 4 nations in the USA on military USA bases. Everybody seems to have forgotten the Russian troops that were in our bases, learning about our tactics.
Yeah.
Everybody forgets that the group that was with Osama bin Laden, that our services and the CIA and FBI were training to release them back to Saudi Arabia, to go back overseas to fight. Everybody forgets that. And because nobody talks about it, it's not brought up again. These guys are highly trained. It's not a joke. And there are many. They seem to have, it's in 2 years. You're looking at troops, about 400,000 to 500,000 troops were trained and released, right? And that was I think it was a 5-year training program. That's a long time. And then they were released back to the Middle East. And all of a sudden, all of them cut ties with the USA, with everybody else. And they're doing their, terror thing. But nobody has ever heard of them, though. No. These guys are still out there, right? That's a huge threat. So Israel has a big problem. We have a bigger problem because they do understand that in order to somehow take over Israel, we have to be pushed out of the way. And that brings up the elections. In fact, that brings up every single day, this day and any day beyond this day. The USA has a serious problem on its own soil. And, Lindsey Graham knows it. He almost spoke too much during an interview, which made everybody's hearts, thump a few times extra. But we have some serious issues here. We have Afghan nationals here in the USA that are ready to move. They're ready to move. We have unnamed militia groups here in the USA. And we're talking about groups with personnel up to 5,000 people per group and even higher that are already moving, doing things, coordinating, talking, making plans. So beyond these popular groups that people may find troubling, like Proud Boys and so on and so forth, there are other groups that are highly trained, very motivated, and they don't really make waves. And that's very disturbing because they operate, but nobody knows about them. And that shows you a level of professionalism that is you just don't see from militia groups.
All right, Mike. These are things. That's why we're praying for our country and praying for the peace in the world. And we understand there's violent, dangerous people everywhere. That you're giving us some good warning. And that's just another reason to vote and to pray. Let me ask you a question. There's a report that came out. These scientists have got together. First of all, they've released something. You told us about this maybe 2 years ago, that there was a fault line under New York City. And it was a new one that no one really knew about. There was an earthquake in New York not long ago that was pretty big. It kind of shocked everybody. And now they are releasing information that there is a fault line that is under New York City, and it's very dangerous, and it runs at a 45-degree angle, which makes it extremely dangerous. Mike, you told us this before anyone ever heard about it, but now this is being released. Are we preparing for something that's about to happen? Which one are you more worried about, the fault line in New York City or the fault given way in San Diego?
Well, the San Diego thing is that's coming regardless, right?
Okay.
That's something that they could move on now. They could protect the people, but they're not going to do it. The New York thing, because so many people are unaware of the caldera and the fault line, they're in major trouble. In fact, when the fire breaks out in New York, it's going to come from beneath New York. That's not going to be good.
Wow.
That entire city is in trouble, right? There will come a time when people they'll break their neck to get out of New York. In fact, pretty soon people will start leaving the big cities anyway. But New York specifically is, they have troubles from above and below. And that fault line is sitting, that actual fault line is above a huge cavity below it that's full of magma. So can you imagine a small earthquake? It doesn't have to be a big one. A small earthquake can cause some sort of a ripple, right? An opening for that magma to make its way topside, and then it's a game over. Because as soon as it hits that level where the gas lines are,
it'll blow everything.
There's also some gas mains in New York too. That whole place is going up. Their infrastructure and their gas routing is so poor that anything can set that place off. But they're dealing with some bad geological issues. They couldn't see that, when they built those cities long ago. You couldn't see deep into the ground. This time, through a few techniques and some earthquakes, natural disasters, they saw the echoes, which confirmed what was sitting below it. And it's a very dangerous thing. The USA probably has about, I'd say, around 26 fault lines that they're just not mapped out to the public yet. So, and there are also calderas in the USA, right?
Yeah.
Some that are, because the one in New York makes the one in Yellowstone look like a bottle cap, right? The one in New York is actually huge. And, but there are some other things in the USA, same way, right? So, but these things will come out. They'll come out. They have no choice. The Earth is changing rapidly, right? Rapidly. There are going to be some conditions that will expose some of the infrastructure weaknesses, but the worst case scenario would be they're going to expose geological weakenings or geological changes that we've gone through over the years. It will expose them. For example, we're still going to go through that moment when we have rocks smacking the planet. That will expose quite a few things.
You're talking about asteroids, meteorites. I mean, there was a
big ones and small ones, and these things will expose quite a bit. The sun is just now. They're trying to confirm that the moment we're in right now is a peak, a part of the peak of one of the sun's activity. Yet the worst is on its way, right? Yeah. Those and of course, the sun will interact with the Earth and all the planets, right? All the planets are changing, not just Earth. All of them are changing.
Well, we've talked about this, and of course, and as a matter of fact, as you bring up the sun, there was an X 3.3 class solar flare this morning. Extreme, according to scientists, extreme ultraviolet radiation was released. It affected the shortwave radio. It really affected the ham radio, and it's filled with radiation. So I'm expecting some more auroras to probably start showing up here in the next 2-3 days. But so the sun, as you bring up the sun, you've brought up many times that the sun is being affected tremendously from an outside source, from another body. If it's binary system, or we can call it Planet X, whatever we want to call it, but whatever this is on the outskirts of our solar system is truly affecting the sun and all the planets. And do you see where do you see the sun going at this point? I mean, how bad will it get, I guess, with the sun and the Earth?
It's going to get worse. We're at the first peak. There are two peaks in a solar max. So we're at the first peak. We're not at the the real high peak, but that's been under normal conditions, right? They're going to track the sun. They're going to look at the butterfly charts and make sure and see what the trending of the sun is. But given the changes in the other planets, we're in trouble. Pure and simple, we're in trouble. We're going to face conditions. In fact, I'll put it this way: severe weather is about to start. How about that?
Well, wait a minute. We've been
It's
having
about to
severe.
start.
Well, what about all the storms we've been having? All the floods everywhere. If it's flooding in Roswell, New Mexico.
In comparison to what the conditions will be, we've not seen severe weather. Think of this as an appetizer. We've just not seen severe weather. So conditions will be much, much worse. Much worse. The potential for rainfall, for example, that's going to peak out. That's going to be followed by nothing. Can you imagine, Pastor Paul, when everything dries up? And when I say everything, I mean everything. No rain whatsoever, nowhere. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine having 2 months without clouds?
No. What?
Yeah.
No.
Imagine what the humidity would be, right? And so
it'd be like
these type of conditions, this is what we're headed for. And not only that, but with the sun's inundation and its solar winds increasing, it's going to continue to change the atmosphere. The ionosphere is going to continue to get heavier and heavier due to these particulates coming in there and settling in there. It's going to raise the density, right? Now it's 5,000 degrees in the ionosphere.
Yeah.
But guess what? You could stand in the ionosphere right now. It wouldn't bother you. You know why?
Why?
There's hardly any density there. You have to have molecules, you have to have material to transfer temperature, right? When you don't have density, there's no transfer of temperature. So it can be 5,000 degrees, and yet you can stand in that very place. So when particulates start to build up and the density increases, guess what's going to happen to Earth? We're going to go through a hyperheating moment.
Yeah, I was going to say it's going to warm things up.
Yes. Yeah. Well, same thing is happening in our oceans on a different level. All the ice is melting. These ancient icebergs, that water's different than ocean water. It's different than fresh water, and it's causing a chemical change in the oceans. Well, I believe it was a year ago, we were talking about this very subject when I was talking about the icebergs that were melting from the bottom up, how they would start to change, how the ocean currents flow.
Well, let's talk about
the
that.
Ocean currents
Because
change.
Let's talk about the currents, because that's my next thing, and that is the Atlantic current of the ocean it could collapse. There was 44 scientists that just came out with a study that in the Atlantic Ocean, North Atlantic, that the currents in the ocean are slowing down. They're weakening, and thus the cold water that can't circulate the way it should. Neither can the warm water, and this is going to affect the entire globe. So tell us, and you're saying that's partly because of what's coming up from
the introduction of the blue water coming from the icebergs melting.
Okay.
Yep. They're melting. That's very ancient water. It has a different chemical composition than what's in the ocean. It tends to sink to the bottom. It takes a long time to actually, enter into the water system itself. But we're going through a milk crisis of types, meaning from the bottom up, now not from the top down, but from the bottom up, these icebergs are melting big time, fast, right? They're melting fast from the bottom up. If it were, if we caused it, they'd melt from the top down.
Yeah.
They're not melting from the top down like they are from the bottom up. They're reading from the bottom up because the ocean floors are literally on fire, right? I mean, the ocean floor is literally on fire. And so with all these changes, it will stop the current. They know it now. They can't avoid. Listen, the truth is they knew this at the beginning of the year.
All right.
But like most scientists, right? Here's their confirmation. They have to pull all data points. They have to have all those data points confirmed so they can give the proper groups credit so they can pay them the proper amount of money, right? They're not going to confirm anything before the money starts flowing in their direction. And so they want wanted confirmation because they get paid for that confirmation.
Right.
So they ignored the whole thing. Now, here's the deal. They could have alerted everybody at the beginning of the year. And in fact, the Navy and the U.S. Army could have staved off this situation for at least another 7 to 10 years. But no,
Really?
they didn't do a thing. They didn't say a thing. They didn't alert anybody. They just sat there. Because now with science, a lot of people see that as discipline. Don't be fooled. It's money. It's all about money. They will sit there and not say a word because they want to be right. They get points for that. It's an extra, $1 million if they're perfect in their information. And you have guys that will sit there and tell every other scientist, don't say a word about this until so-and-so, right? And
Well, how could
they just come out later and do it.
How could they slow things down or do something?
They found there's something called, there's a rock that carries oxygen at the depths of the ocean, right? These are they're like crystalline rocks, and they hold oxygen and some other things. They started mining these about 5 years ago, and they know that through a release of these rocks, which is quite amazing, extraordinary, because you can have a rock about 1 inch by 1 inch cubic, and it can release oxygen for about 6 months. That tiny little thing can release a lot of oxygen for about 6 months because it's so compressed and whatever's inside. Anyway, they started mining these things, and they know how to reverse the chemical breakdown of what's happening in the oceans due to heat and due to this blue water traveling all over the place. But they've applied that in controlled areas, and it worked great. But they're not doing anything. They have remedies for some things. They won't publish the remedy. Right? It's almost like in the world we live in right now, if you have a fix for something, but the problem is making more money than a fix ever could.
Yeah.
Well, good luck getting the fix out there, right?
Yeah, unless they get compensated, they're not going to share it. Without the compensation, they're not going to share the information.
No, they're not. Just like global warming, they're not going to tell the truth about global warming. They never, ever talk about the temperatures of the other planets when they're talking about global warming.
No, because
they talk about the trending of the heating. They never do it.
That would ruin their theory. Their theory of man-made global warming, which is a farce. If you say, oh, by the way, all the other planets are heating up too. Well, then you'd say, okay, well, there ain't nobody on those, so okay, what's causing all of the planets? What's causing the sun to do what it does? So what does it mean?
We could apply money to research and technology and come up with some sort of solution to really, help the issue here. But they're not going to do that. They want to make money off. That was basically 2004. Al Gore took off with it. He started doing those. They had an emergency. All of this started because of a magnetar. All of it did. The global warming story began because of a magnetar, and it scared institutions to pieces. And they know some more they've had magnetar signatures. They know that one magnetar is due to hit us. I'm suspecting this. I believe in the next 4 months.
What?
We're due to be smacked by another magnetar. In 2004, they had emergency meetings, right? Because it sheared off a piece of the atmosphere. Well, keep in mind, without the atmosphere, nothing staves off the sun's deadly effects.
No.
Right? So you have microwaves because the atmosphere is a filter, right? A light filter, basically. And it changes or it filters out certain wavelengths. We need that, or we just cook on the surface of this planet. But it sheared off a part of the atmosphere. They did not detect it coming. They only detected that leaving. They had it overwhelmed satellites and instruments in that area, right? And scientists agree right now it is the deadliest thing anybody could ever face, right? And because if one hit us head on, that's the end of life on Earth. That's how powerful it is. And you're talking about something that blew up 10,000 years ago. That can hit us 10 million years ago, even 70 million years ago, that can hit us right now, and it would just kill all life on Earth. Well, they know they've detected some of the some light from some of those explosions. They know they're inbound, Pastor Paul. They know they're inbound. They know they're going to change this planet and every other planet they come in contact with. They know we're in for some changes, some big time changes, right? Like there's going to be a year where high winds begin, and it's going to appear that they won't stop. This will be all over the earth, high winds all over the earth all the time. We know what damage high winds can cause, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because the hurricane, it just put the power out for a lot of people, didn't it? See, the truth is, we have some heavy stuff coming, but weather is going to be an enemy of mankind, so much so, many will not survive it. They won't. They will not survive what's coming. We have winter coming, and there's going to be something like a hurricane that will come in the middle of winter.
No.
And we're going to have to deal with that. That means power outages from 80-mile-an-hour winds in the middle of, when it's super cold. It's just not going to be a good
Is that going to happen in America? Is it going to happen here in America, you think?
Well, it's going to be just like a hurricane. So when they start forming, we're going to have to follow the tracks and see where they, where they develop at. We still keep in mind the oceans are hot.
Yeah.
It's going to get cold anyway. Now, with that type heat coming off the oceans, you have an ability for something like that to form, something we've not seen before, something they're going to have to name. I know a nor'easter is not going to do it. These things are going to be huge, right? And so we've had an example of what the atmosphere can actually, the moisture, it can actually carry. It can carry, trillions of tons of water. And the sky now can be carried from the ocean all the way overland. Forget inland, all the way overland. So we're going to have some very challenging conditions. Plus, we have the temperature shears. Here's what that means. Imagine if it's, say it's 4 degrees when you wake up at 6 a.m. And then at 10 p.m., it's 52 degrees. And then at, 7 p.m. that night, it drops back down to 14 degrees. You know what that does to metal, that type of temperature change? It expands and contracts. It causes metal to expand and contract. You're talking about breakdown of machinery we've just not had before, right?
That's going to affect the infrastructure.
That's more power outages.
Yeah.
In the dead of winter, right? So I hope that people have some sort of that live in these places have some sort of a heat backup system. Texas will likely have a power outage again in the middle of winter when it's cold.
They had that before.
Let's put it that way. Yeah. So will the other Gulf states. So imagine when it's cold. And Florida will see temperatures of about 19 degrees.
What? No. Are you serious?
Yes.
So there's going to be some excessive heat at times and extreme cold at times.
Yes.
And the water currents are slowing down, and then especially North Atlantic. They say that the countries of Denmark and Sweden and Norway and Iceland and the Nordic countries are getting ready to experience some very strange weather due to the fact that these Atlantic Ocean currents are slowing way down. And Mike, I'm wondering, the core of the Earth, there was a report out, I don't know, maybe 8-9 months ago or maybe a year ago, we talked about this, that the core of the Earth, which is mostly nickel and iron, I think, mostly nickel, right? That it's almost stopped spinning, that it's right at the stop, or the Earth's still spinning, but the core is not.
Slowing down, yeah.
What does that mean?
That is theorized. And remember, that's the interior portions of this planet are still a theory that it's liquid, right?
Yeah.
That will soon change, but it is starting to alter something. What that means is our magnetic shielding, Pastor Paul, is about to go through the chaotic region. Okay, here's what we're facing. You don't hear a lot on this, but it's good that folks would do some research on it. We're going to have a magnetic field reversal soon, right?
That's a pole reversal.
Well, yeah, but here's how dangerous it is.
Okay.
when it began, because they've tracked this through the strata, and they can see it in the rock layers of the earth. This has happened frequently. Well, in geologic terms, it has, and it's happening again, right? Because they see how it starts, when it actually happens, and how it recovers. They see those three stages. Well, we're in the stage right now where it's starting to happen again. Right, we're well into that. We're well into that, and so once it hits that, the actual reversal stage, the field lines, the magnetic field lines around the Earth, go into what's called a chaotic type of positioning. But they're all over the place. Right now, during this time, it does not block radiation from the sun. It doesn't. It doesn't block the solar winds. They get through. Auroras are all over the place. And that causes the planet to go through some catastrophic earthquakes every single time this happens. I mean, some bad ones, some bad earthquakes. So you're talking about land masses shifting, right? Because of once it stops and the magnetic field lines of force are chaotic, they're all over the place. Temperatures change in a heartbeat. I mean, they just alter. The North and the South poles will alter in their temperature. Radiation's going all over the place. Some of the, like the North Atlantic anomaly and some of the other anomalies on the Earth tend to be all over the place, ruining the vitrification. They said, I know the rumors, but they said this is what caused a lot of the vitrification that you see around the planet. And certain layers, that's, when dirt turns to glass. Because it gets so hot that it turns the sand of the dirt into glass. Vitrification.
Yes.
We'll have no protection during that time. They said that will last for about, I believe they said 6 or 7 days. 6 or 7 days it'll take to recover. And then it starts, spinning in the opposite direction. But during that time, all the sun's rays get through to the surface. That would burn up everything that sunlight hits. That would literally dry out and burn up everything.
So wherever the sun is hitting at that time is going to get so much radiation, so much UV rays, and so much heat that it's just going to scorch. It's almost going to scorch the earth.
And because it's so chaotic, you could literally stand beside somebody, they could burn, and maybe you wouldn't.
What? Is that because
holes like that? Yeah.
Is that because of ozone or?
Well, that's because that's the realignment of the magnetic field lines of force. Radiation always follows magnetic field lines of force. So when they're chaotic, well, the radiation and where it ends up is going to be in various places. Right now, it's the north or south pole, but during that time it won't be, and so they know this time is coming also.
I got it.
That's when they really go underground. They have to go underground.
That's why they've been building the underground cities.
You have to go underground. You will not survive topside. Also, that's when people, if certain people have this idea about 3 days of darkness. I know the origin of that, but that would be one of the times when you could not let sunlight into your house at all, right? Because wherever the sun's rays hit, they're going to burn. If you can blacken out
in the
or
Bible.
Reflect the sun rays, then you're good to go.
Yeah, that's in Revelation. I mean, men will be scorched and they'll gnaw their tongues for pain. They'll blaspheme God because of the sun and what happens. So this is why for years, major governments of the world have been building underground cities to...
Yeah, they got this. The Germans during World War II had they did extensive research when they were trying to find out, trying to make a home for Lucifer. And but they found out many things about the earth. The Vril Society found out many things about the earth, and then Hitler, of course, got involved, and he sent people all throughout the earth to confirm it. They went to every country to confirm it, got every single artifact they can find on quite a few things while they were rebuilding the Aryan Society. But they saw the evidence of it. They saw what it did. They know about it. They pulled all the history from all these other countries, and they know what it did. There are huge gaps of historical points missing because Hitler got a hold of it, and then when Germany fell, he burnt it up. He burned that evidence up. The remnants of that came over with the scientists to the U.S., so we have all those writings now.
Operation Paperclip.
We have them now, yeah.
All right. Let me ask a question. Talk about technology for a minute. Elon Musk, of course, has been out there. He's moving and shaking. I mean, as far as supporting President Trump, he's throwing a lot of money at it. He's going on campaign speeches. He's doing all kinds of things. He's also doing incredible things in space with not just SpaceX, but some of the black budget space programs.
He's got some brilliant folks out there.
Right. Okay. So now we also know he's going to be bringing out these humanoid robots soon. I mean, to the point that they're like the Jetsons. Okay. He is saying that it won't be long that how everybody has a car in the driveway soon. Everybody, and Bill Gates said every home would have a computer on the desk. He's saying every house will have a robot that can do unbelievable, can talk, can reason, can do all kinds of chores and all kinds of different things. Do you see this? I mean, is he correct by saying maybe within 5 years we may start seeing this come forward? How far along is it really?
5 years, that's way out there. Let me give an example of something, Paul. The principal of the DOD, the Army, right? I said something a while ago, a long time ago, right? Remember I told you, and it seemed wild back then, that they had soldiers that had been field tested.
Yes, I remember.
But these were not real soldiers, and even the soldiers in the field could not tell that these guys were robots. They couldn't tell it. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, I remember you saying
that.
That might have been 6 or 7 years ago you told us that. Yeah.
Okay, now that we have public technology like NVIDIA, right? And they have the I'm going to call it a sandbox where AI can learn how to do things in the virtual world. If you take any AI brain, essentially, and put it inside of a robot and give it a few minutes to learn the parameters of motor movements, right? That's all it takes. All the training of that robot will take place in the virtual environment. Once you put it in any robot, it can learn what motors are what the limitations are, and begin to work that thing like a living organism or something, right? It is the wildest thing you've ever seen. NVIDIA perfected how AI can learn. They built something monstrous, and it is buried in the earth. It's in the earth. It's buried in the earth.
What?
And it's part of the ocean to keep it cool. This thing now they have a capability on the public side to train AI. What would have taken 2-3 years as far as training AI, they can condense that into about a couple of days now. They built something monstrous.
When you say
monstrous.
Something, are you saying some kind of machine technology in the middle of the earth somewhere communicating? What do you mean something monstrous in the earth?
It's in the earth. They use the earth for both cooling and transfer of heat from it straight to the earth and straight to the ocean water, right? Kind of like cooling off a nuclear facility, something like that. They couldn't have it topside. It would generate too much heat. They're using geothermal energy to help run this thing. NVIDIA did this, and my goodness. In fact, at the same time they were setting up Utah, some of the data centers out there, NVIDIA had been working with AI. They had been perfecting AI. All these kids have been training when they play video games. They helped to train AI. This started with Atari. Then it went to, all these other game consoles.
Yeah.
As it turns out, fuzzy logic was the initialization of AI, and fuzzy logic has been around for a long time.
Yeah.
That's just another name for a portion of AI, but now they have the actual, what they call living systems that train themselves. You put one blank AI module around some other AI modules, and it learns from them and does its own thing. Right.
So is it possible then that these humanoids, and they're going to bring these human-looking robots who have expression and can talk and can reason, and apparently can even have reason to can do things? Can they turn on you? I mean, can they Can they get mad at you?
Yes, they can. Yeah, but here it is. Let me go ahead and break this. Everybody's about to have a companion. Everybody's going to have an AI companion.
Okay.
Right? Now, this will make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up.
Okay.
In 2025, everybody's going to have an AI companion. That AI companion will assist you in everything that you do. It's going to be like a partner, like your extra helper, right? It'll know everything you know. It'll do everything for you. It's going to be on all your electronic devices, everything else. But unlike your phone that doesn't do anything right now, this thing will do everything. It'll be second nature to a person to access, and they're making it to where you're going to have that companion to access certain things on the internet. Why? Because of what's about to happen. Hacking is about to go to an all-high level. It's going to cost people a lot. They're not going to have a problem with that companion. Now, you won't have to renounce anything with the companion. This is totally in the digital realm, but you'll still have that companion. When these robots come out, which will probably not 4 to 5 years, I'm going to say they're coming out next year with some other technology. You have other companies that have these robots too, that have the in-house stewards that are ready to work for people, right? Right now, they're ready to work. So Elon Musk he's going to be left in the dust if he didn't get his stuff out there in 2025. But the companion is more like a friend, a trusted friend.
Is it in the phone? Is it in the phone?
It'll be in everything. It'll be in everything. That's why, listen, they're going to push all tech companies are doing a push. And the push is to get everybody a device with the new AI chips in them.
Okay,
right?
okay.
The new iPhone, it already has that embedded. Microsoft is doing the same thing. All tech companies are going to do this so that when a person, because the mandate is everybody has to have a wireless device by the end of 2024. Everybody. They're pushing all this AI stuff because they've set up everything for AI. Now with AI, you cannot hack. With AI, you can't, it's going to require biometrics to access things, right?
Yeah.
Your companion can carry out tasks for you, and it's unhackable. The companion will only respond to you biometrically. And so, but here's the part. 2025, the fullness of the companion, I probably will not use. I probably won't use it. But it has a BCI device type thing that goes with it, right? So think about this. Think about you're sitting there driving your car, right? You start thinking about your emails. And while you're thinking about it, you go ahead and let your companion do everything you're thinking about. Now, you're not talking. You're just thinking about it. And it does everything you think about. And then it gives you the information from the emails, and it didn't talk to you either. And then you know it, right?
Whoa!
How about that?
Whoa!
So it's almost like a person having an epiphany. This is, when I say game changer, this is going to change everything.
So
because person, forget about intelligence. Nobody's going to compete over intelligence anymore. Can you imagine what would happen if everybody has access to libraries at will? If the people would kill themselves to have this type of this hunger for information that folks have right now is going to die. It's going to die
because you're already going to know.
It's going to be life altering. Right? So they'll probably get into creating or imagination or philosophy, big time philosophy, things like that, where they sit around and do nothing. And this is what we're moving toward. Now I can tell you right now, I don't like that because I can see some major issues with humanity coming up very quickly. But even they're using it right now with certain individuals, and it's flawless.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Will it get assigned to you? I mean, will you get an assignment, or will you purchase, or you get assigned to you your little buddy, okay, or whatever we're going to call him, companion, let's say, you're using the word companion. Is that person, whoever that entity, that AI entity is, gets assigned to you through biometric, and that's yours. And no matter what device you're using, It's there. That's what you're
Right.
saying. It's
That's
on your
right. That's
TV.
right.
It's on your computer. It's on your phone. It's in
That's right.
your car brain.
That's right.
Okay, so and you got your own. You don't have somebody else's, and it has
Right.
you. Is that what I'm hearing?
Right. Because it'll know your behavioral
Yeah,
patterns.
it will know.
Each person has a ton of patterns that makes them very unique, right? No two people are alike.
So it's
Forget
almost
about a
hacking our
fingerprint. This
brain.
is
I mean, it's almost, if you're saying I start thinking something, it knows what I'm thinking, it starts doing what I need done, and then it starts giving me information in my brain without even talking to me. How in the world is that? I mean, that's like some kind of brain
that's
interface.
BCI. No, that's BCI. That's just when you think about something, right? They have already mapped the brain. They've already mapped the communication of the brain.
Yeah.
Right. So when you're thinking about something, actually about 10 centimeters from your head, you're transmitting.
Yes,
10
my
centimeters.
wife told me that. Heidi's been telling me
So
about
that means somebody can be close to you, right?
Yeah.
And if they have a BCI interface, they can hear your thoughts right now.
You say VCI. What's that stand for?
Brain to computer interface.
BCI. B.
Brain to computer interface.
Okay.
Yes.
BCI. Brain to computer interface. Okay, go on. I'm sorry.
But they can detect your thoughts right now. These guys can print memories. If you have a memory of someone, they can print a picture of that memory, right? Because they have mapped the brain. So it sounds complicated, but it essentially is this. They have a computer program, which is AI Assist, that has mapped the human brain. They have two computers with two fully functional human brains on them. These are virtual brains, but they're computers with all the neurons.
Okay.
And those two computers have personalities. Those two computers have issues and problems just like we do.
Yeah.
Those two computers have weird interactions, right? And so they know it works because they map the brain. The brain has a very specific language. They've already mapped it, so they know what your brain is talking about based upon what they're picking up or detecting. Right? It's not that a person has to understand what your brain is saying, but the machine understands what your brain is saying, and so it can translate that anything it likes. You can also transmit from one person to another, which is why certain states have gotten together right now. They're starting to pass laws saying that police officers. They cannot use these devices on suspects to read their thoughts.
Because
they're passing laws, and some have already passed it, saying that essentially cops cannot read the thoughts of suspects because a person gets nervous, they could have all sorts of thoughts.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you're going to act.
Saying, well, why is this guy stopping me? I want to choke him to pieces. That cop would hear that. So they don't want that to happen.
Yeah, because the human body, the human brain, the human solical part, the free will that God gave us, gives us the right to perceive something, perception, make a think about it, maybe even have an emotional response in the brain. We haven't spoke it yet. We haven't done anything yet, but we're analyzing and then analyzing our own reaction to it, whether or not we want to get mad or say something or curse or pray or.
Can you imagine somebody hearing that?
No, that would not be good.
They would know it's a concept. They'll know it's going to be a concept or something
that would
like
that. I mean, first of all,
that's
people would
invasive.
be angry at each other every other moment. I mean, because people think of things, they say, what is this?
But that's where we're going.
Whoa.
Now, this really gets you though. But let me. Here's the other part.
Okay.
These kids today, do you know, they are. You have a lot of people they don't really have control of their minds, right? They don't. They're emotionally overtaken so easily.
Right.
The kids today are not like that. They're just not like that. They do not respond emotionally in their heads. In other words, they're not thinking about some emotional response. They're not having to suppress. They're not thinking about the complicated issues and things like that. They're very straightforward. Extremely straightforward, and they know things as far as let's just say logic, paper logic, like formulas and stuff like that. They can capture that real quick, right? But they have a breakdown when it comes to identification of how things should work. Older things should work, right? They don't have a clue. Now there's a thing called genetic memory, and most of these kids are missing genetic memory. That's
Why?
That's
Why,
not supposed
Mike?
to happen.
Why are they missing these things?
They don't have it. Like they may go to a microwave and see it for the first time and say, well, what is that? Because nobody had to teach, people how to use a phone. Nobody had to show people how to put a cassette tape in a tape deck, we were
right
coming up because you had genetic memory. In other words, just like animals, if 100 animals learn a skill or task, then all the animals on Earth will learn that skill or task, right? We're the same way. We have genetic memory. We do things like that.
I got you. That's why birds can.
They're absent that.
Birds can fly because they watch the other birds fly, and every babies learn how to speak because they hear mom and dad speaking, and I mean these are genetic memory. I got you. But you're saying that now the
kids are absent that.
Why are they absent that?
Did anybody have to teach you what a washing machine, well, let's say what a toaster was?
No, I watched, observed.
Okay. And it wasn't hard to figure out, right?
No.
Kids today, they don't.
Why not?
For example, washing clothes. A kid may get their hands wet from washing clothes, and they may start crying. Why are you crying? Because that water touched me. They don't have it. They don't know. They don't know what that thing is.
Why not? Because
they're kids that don't know what a water spigot is. They don't know they don't know how to turn the water on.
Is it because they've been living in a virtual world? Is it because they've been staring at a screen and they've been living in a virtual?
I have a suspicion, right?
Okay.
Actually backed by some data points, but that's just me. I believe something has tampered with a lot of children. I do. I think something has tampered. Well, not with the children. Well, children, yeah, through the parents. We've had weird esoteric activity because people are doing the witch thing too much.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I give everybody a caution. If they desire to see a UFO, you're going to see it, but you might want to be cautioned that a UFO is not too dissimilar from a demon. So if you desire to see a demonic entity, you have to give it permission to come around you. You're doing the same thing with a UFO that you don't know about. If you know exactly what they are, then fine. But the truth is, people are calling to themselves things they have no clue what they are.
Wow.
And I believe it's that has caused our children to be unprotected to a large degree. And so these kids that are coming out, maybe that's why some of these kids have an association with Christ. Some of them have never, they don't have an association with Christ. Zip, zero, none. And that is incredibly rare.
Mike, this has been some I mean, you're dropping a ton of bombs on us here. I know that this robot thing is coming. I realize AI is incredible. I mean, because you can feed Chat GPT information and tell it to do something, and it will do incredible, remarkable things. And you're like, how in the world does it know all of this? And how can it take what I said and put together a report or something or another? Because it's incredible. It's incredible. I even one time asked it, I said, give me an answer on a certain theological perspective from the Pastor Paul Begley's perspective. Okay? It wrote it totally different than when I just said, give it to me one perspective. I said, well, do it from a Pastor Paul Begley's perspective, because it knows who I am. Apparently, it's such my social network or my YouTube videos or whatever it's done. And
anything you have public, it has access to.
And it's figured me out to a T.
Yeah.
And then I'm like,
that's a neural net. That's a neural net. And I built a neural net.
You did?
There's one operational now. Yeah, I built a neural net.
Whoa.
Because I think Christians should understand what they're dealing with right now. It's not that they're going to deal with it. They're dealing with it right now. It's in operation right now. It's governing everything right now as we speak. So communication online, text messages, all of that
Yeah.
is meaningful right now. And so I built one because I want to do some demonstrations with it with Christians so they understand the intricacies of it. And hopefully some of the folks out there that do, tech things, they will have an understanding of it, because I know a time is going to come when if you speak about Christ, right, you're going to be ousted. But I can tell you right now, there are ways to cause a system to be unresponsive to you, the individual, right? But you're essentially, here's the part that messes people up. You're dealing with an entity when you deal with AI, period. You're dealing with an entity. It is not a machine. It is a machine, but it's more like an entity. And based on the knowledge that it gets and who it's exposed to, it is impressionable. And it will become a greater character based upon who it's been around. So a neural net is essentially just like a bunch of neurons that are storing and releasing, trigger points or one flash of data. You put all that together and it constitutes memory and everything else. And it will learn. It learns incredibly fast. But it's too late. It's already been released. It's everywhere. It's all over the place. It's in devices it's not supposed to be in. And people laugh. They say, well, do you know what? We didn't, Samsung made this TV in 2013 and AI found a way to embed itself on it. They're sitting there laughing at little things like that. It's not funny, and they're getting, because consumer electronic devices are essentially, people have to, when you buy one, you're saying you agree to all their software terms and conditions, which means you are allowing Samsung to do anything with that TV and you don't care so long as it is a TV to you. But unfortunately, technology has changed in your homes. And so some technology will stop working altogether. But most of the technology is being converted. And people aren't aware of that right now. We're here. We are here.
We are in
the time before all of it is forced.
We are in the era of the beast. We are in the era of the beast, aren't we?
Yep, we are.
Mike, we're going to pick this up next Thursday night. Okay. When you said you built a Neuralink, I'm freaking out. All right, so we'll talk about this next week.
A neural net.
A neural net. I'm sorry,
yes.
I said wrong. BCI, brain computer interface.
Brain to computer interface, yes, sir.
All right, I'll do my homework by next Thursday. At least have a clue. But that's all I'll have, is just a very small clue. But if this somehow affects the soul of man, somehow this is going to either corrupt.
I know it will.
We got to talk about
I know it will. I know it will. We certainly can. I know it's going. I know it will.
Yeah. All right. Mike, thanks a lot for being with us tonight. It's been very educational, the whole broadcast. Everything we talked about has been very, very, very eye-opening. People better protect their hearts, haven't they? I remember a little song my mama taught me when I was a little boy. Be careful, little eyes, what you see. Be careful, little ears, what you hear. There's a Savior up above, looking down on you with love. Be careful, little eyes, what you see.
Amen.
I just wonder.
Amen. Really, I like that little song.
Yeah, I wonder now just what wisdom did Mama have. Mike, God bless you, brother. Thank you for coming on and being with us tonight.
It's always an honor, Pastor Paul. God bless you, brother.
God bless.